At a news conference after the death of the very wealthy John D. Rockefeller, his attorney was asked, how much money did he leave? His response was, he left it all. In the 39th Psalm, King David offers these words of wisdom to us. Lord, remind me how brief my time on earth will be. Remind me that my days are numbered, and that all our busy rushing ends in nothing. We heap up wealth, not knowing who will spend it. And in the story of the rich man who planned to tear down his barns to build bigger ones to store his wealth, God called him a fool, saying that his life would be taken that night. You see, Jesus knew that money would be a stumbling block for everyone. That's why he talked more about money and possessions than he did about heaven and hell. Never saying that money was evil, only that it could become the master you serve rather than serving him, the one who offers the greatest gift of all.
Our gospel lesson this morning is taken from Luke, and I'll begin reading with the 16th verse, and you may follow along. Then he told them a parable. The land of a rich man produced abundantly. And he thought to himself, what should I do? For I have no place to store my crops. And then he said, I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, be merry. But God said to him, You fool, this very night your life is being demanded of you. All the things you have prepared, whose will they be? So it is with those who store up treasures for themselves, but are not rich towards God. The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. The setting of this story that Jesus tells, this parable, is about a man who confronts Jesus and asks him if he will intervene in a dispute that he is having with his oldest brother. Now, it was not uncommon at this time for people to seek out well-respected rabbis to get them to help, to aid them in solving a difference they may have with someone. And so this is not out of the normal for this person to come up to Jesus and ask him to intervene, to be a mediator in this dispute that he's having with his oldest brother. It appears that the younger brother is demanding that his older brother give to him his share of what their father left when he died, his inheritance. He is probably talking about property, about land. He wants a piece of the farm. In first century Palestine, land was scarce. It was essential that the land would stay intact and not be divided among the heirs. The farms were small, and if they were divided among the children, then it would destroy the efficiency of the farm. And so there was a law in that day and time that when property in the form of land, when it was to be inherited, it was to only go to the oldest son after the father's death. That's just the law. Again, farms are small, and if you divide them up and make them even smaller, then they will not be as productive. And so it is believed that this person wanted a piece of the farm. I think Jesus discerns the real issue here. And the real issue is not justice, but greed. An excessive desire for more. Have you ever been a part of a family that somebody felt like they didn't get their fair share of the inheritance? Causes family problems, doesn't it? Makes people upset, makes people mean and mad, makes siblings not get along. Sometimes greed can be a very destructive force in a family or in the life of a person. And so Jesus, again, he quickly discerns that the issue here is not justice. The issue here is greed. And so Jesus basically says, nope, not going to do it. Not going to get involved in this family squabble. Not going to get mixed up with it. I learned a long time ago, when families are feuding, stay out of it. I learned as a minister that I will end up losing both families if I get involved in it. So I want you to know, if you're having a squabble with a sibling about possessions, don't come to me, because Jesus has set the standard for me to say no to you. But Jesus did seize this opportunity to address the issue of greed. That fatal attraction that we seem to have in America when it comes to things. That fatal attraction that robs us of our ability to think rationally about spiritual matters. You see, life is not about stuff. Life is about our relationship with God. It's not about what we have and don't have. It's about how close and intimate our walk is with our Heavenly Father. That's what life is about. Life is not about property. Life is about spiritual realities. That's what life is about. And we get mad and upset with each other when we reduce life to those lesser things. So that's what's important. My family never had a whole lot. My father inherited some land from his stepfather. And so I have 3 siblings, and so there's about 90 acres of property that we have. I pay the tax on it every year. But in the end, I don't care if I get any of it or not. Because it's no big deal to me. No big deal. If my siblings want it, they can have it. Because I'm just passing through. That's all I'm doing. I have not made this earth my home. I'm just a pilgrim. That's all I am. If I get a piece, okay. If I don't, I'm not going to be mad at anybody. Because it's not worth it. Because my eyes are set on something much greater than property. Especially in Saluda County. Now, I think it's important to notice here that Jesus is not critical of this person in the parable because he's rich. And he's not critical of this person in the parable because he makes plans for the future. Because there's nothing wrong with being rich, and there's nothing wrong with making plans for the future. I don't want us to misunderstand that in the story, in the parable. There's nothing wrong with either one of those things. Now, the story is about a rich man who becomes extremely wealthy. A rich farmer who becomes extremely wealthy. He goes from a millionaire to a billionaire. Okay, Jesus lets us know that this was a rich man to begin with before he ever had this exceptional, this extravagant harvest. And when he had that extravagant harvest, he became a first century Bill Gates. That's what he did. That's what he did when he had that extravagant harvest. And Jesus nowhere in the story implies that he got this money or came about this great harvest in a dishonest way. He did not cheat or exploit anyone to get his wealth. His wealth seemed to have come from the fact that he was an industrious and hardworking person. And that's how he became successful, was through his hard work and through his wisdom of knowing how to plant and how to harvest. And he seemed to be wise because he made plans for the future. He did. He made plans. After this extravagant harvest, he saw that his present barns, his place of stores, was not large enough, and so he tore them down and even built larger ones. And after he saw how much he had, he said, "It's time for me to retire. You know? I'm going to kick back and enjoy all that I've made in my life. I'm going to take it easy for a while. I've been working hard all my life. And I've done very well. And so I'm going to retire and take advantage of this situation. Now, in this parable, we see that the mistake that he makes, the foolish and the terrible mistake that he makes, that he failed to factor three important realities into his retirement plans. Now, I'm 64 and I'm already starting to make plans for retirement. That's just what we do when we get this age. And it's not because the number is telling us, it's our mind and our body telling us to. But this person failed to factor three important realities into his plans. And those three factors are what? That life is fragile, that God is real, and that hearses are not equipped with trailer hitches. That means you can't take it with you. Let's look at it. I think first of all, we see that he does not understand that life is fragile. He is acting under the assumption that he still has many years to live. Many years to enjoy the lifestyle that he can afford. That's his assumption. He's assuming that I can now live these last many years of my life with all the resources I've stowed up, and I'm going to live, pretty prosperous in these last years. But he doesn't realize that life is fragile. He doesn't know how long he will live or how soon he will die. He doesn't know. Isn't that true of all of us? We don't know how long we will live or how soon we will die. No one with absolute certainty can promise you or me another moment in our life, much less tomorrow. When I was pastoring outside of Gilbert in a church, Beulah United Methodist Church, Marty Woolbright, who was coaching at Gilbert High School at that time, allowed some of us old guys in the community to come to the weight room at the high school and work out. And so there were a number of us that did that. And one was a highway patrolman by the name of Mark Bullard. Mark was a health nut and a gym rat. I mean, he was in excellent shape. And Bull and I became close friends over those years. And probably in my third or fourth year there, Bull and his wife Terry and their three girls started attending the church I was pastoring. I was a little stronger than Bull. I could out-bench him, but he could outrun me. He would take me out to the track and want to run 2 miles, and it killed me to try to keep up with him. And he didn't seem to be having any effort at all. Well, after my fifth year, I moved to Malden. And I guess I was probably in my third year at Malden, and we were married. My wife and I married, and we were on vacation. Her family and mother have a place up outside of Cassius. And so we were at the house they have there. And I had been to the gym that morning working out and got back, and Marion met me at the door, and she said, "We got a call this morning from the mortuary in Lexington. Bull's dead." I said, "He is?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "What happened?" They didn't say. I said, "Maybe he got killed in his line of work." And so she said they left a number for his wife Terry for you to call her. And so I called Terry. I said, "Terry, what happened?" She said, "Jerry, Bull was out," and she called him Bull. Bull was out running, and I was on the four-wheeler, and two of the girls were with me, and he was just running along, and then he turned around and looked at me and said, "Help me," and he fell to the ground, and he was dead. 42 years old. 42 years old. Excellent shape and health. They did an autopsy and found out for some reason there was a blood clot in his heart. You know, life is something we don't know how long we're going to live or how soon we will die. That's just the reality of it. And we always have to factor that in life. The one thing that you and I all know for sure is that we are going to die. There's a lot of things about life yet for me that I don't know. But one thing I am absolutely certain of, one day my body will assume room temperature. I know that. And I will die. And you would think that if that's the one thing that we all know for certain, it will be the one thing that we are most prepared to do. Now, I don't dwell or spend all my time thinking about dying. But I am ready and I am prepared to die. If it comes this afternoon, I'm ready. You've heard me say before, I am about the business of living. I think God has created us to live, and we should be about the business of living. But we should also be prepared, ready to die, because we don't know when it may come. Because why? Life is fragile. There are no guarantees when it comes to life. Can anyone guarantee you today that you will be here next Sunday? There is a great chance you will or can be. But no one with absolute certainty can promise you that. And so I think when we plan our life, when we plan our future, we should always make plans with the fact that life is fragile. That life is uncertainty. We don't know how long we will live or how soon we will die. That's something we don't know. And we see what? That this very wealthy farmer never factored that into the equation. Never factored that in. The second thing that he didn't factor in, I know we have a verse. Let me read that and then we'll go on. I'm about to get ahead of myself. This is from James. And James says, you should know better than to say, today or tomorrow, we will go to the city. We will do business there for a year and make a lot of money. What do you know about tomorrow? How can you be so sure about your life? It is nothing more than a mist that appears for only a little while before it disappears. And James speaks of the brevity of life. At its best, it's short. At its best, it's short. Eternity is going to last much longer than this temporal life. And why do we put so much emphasis and so much thought into something that is short? And many times so little thought and so little interest into something that is going to last forever. James says we're like a vapor cloud that appears for a while and then vanishes. Or like a puff of smoke that appears for a while and then the wind blows it away. That's life. That's the reality of life. These bodies are only so durable, and that's it. That's it. They are just so durable. That's it. Secondly, we see another thing he did not factor in, and that is God is real. God said to him, "You fool." Now, I put a verse from Psalms 14:1a, and it says, "Fools say in their heart, there is no God." Now, a fool in the Bible usually is not someone who doesn't believe in God. They just live as though God does not exist, that God is not real. They just live that way, that God is a non-factor to them in their life. Notice this conversation that this man in the parable has with himself. Notice the conversation is all about himself. He never mentions God. God is never a part of the conversation. God is completely left out. Now, that's how sometimes we live our lives. God never factored into the equation. God is never a part of the conversation. God is just left out of all the decisions and things that happen into our life. Listen to him. And he thought to himself, what should I do? For I have no place to store my crops. Then he says, I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods, and I will say to my soul, so you have ample goods laid up for you for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry. The conversation was all about him. That's right. You see, when God is not a part of the equation, the conversation will only and always be about you. He never mentions his family. He never mentions his friends. He never saw the blessings that he had, the riches that he had, as something to be shared with others. He only saw them as something to be enjoyed by himself. That's it. That's it. When God is not a part of the equation in our life, we become very selfish individuals. Are y'all aware that we're naturally selfish anyway? You know, as Methodists, as Wesleyans, you know, John Wesley's big thing was we are to be going on to perfection. And traffic and selfishness are two things I have to really pray about. Because there are people out there who do not know how to drive. And sometimes I am blown away with my selfish thoughts. I am so glad that my faith and my trust in God keeps me from living them out. But I am shocked by the selfish thoughts that I have. And I would think that most of us here this morning sometimes are pretty shocked by the selfish thoughts that we have. And if God is not a part of the equation in our life, if we don't trust and put our faith in God, then life becomes all about us, about me. And realize everything about the wonderful things that's happened to this man, he made it all about himself. He doesn't thank God for the blessing. He doesn't say, God, you've blessed me in such a great and wonderful way. What is it that you want me to do with all of this? How can I invest in your kingdom upon this earth? How can I do that? Show me, teach me. Bring somebody to me that can share with me a need that you want me to give to. When I was pastoring outside of Columbia, there was a gentleman in the church named Mr. Bowen. Mr. Bowen, I heard not long after I got there, his goal was to die a millionaire. That was it. And when he died, I understand he was worth about $1.5 million. But he was obsessed with dying as a millionaire. He gave about $25 a week to the church. I don't know of any charity that he ever gave to generously. It was just all about him dying as a millionaire. That's all it was about. That's all it was about. In the end, when it's all said and done, God will have the last word. That's why we need to make it about God. We will not be able to bribe him, and we will not be able to deceive him about our lives, because he knows the truth. And I know that when my days on earth are gone, and I know and believe in there will even be a judgment seat of Christ where Christians will come and be judged, I believe that it will be important as I stand before Christ that I didn't make life about me. There's no greater challenge for any of us this morning than to you to make sure that we don't make life about me. You make it about God, and you make it about others, but you don't make it about yourself. Because if you do, you're going to mess up. You're going to mess up. You're going to mess up big time. You see, this person never factored in the fact that God is real and God will have the last word. God is real and God will have the last word. And then lastly, hearses do not come equipped with trailer hitches. Have you ever seen a trailer hitch on a hearse? Why not? Why don't they have trailer hitches? Because you can't take it with you. No matter how much you accumulate, no matter how much you stockpile, no matter how many material gains you gain in your life, you came into this world with nothing, and you and I will leave this world with nothing. I like what he said about John D. Rockefeller when someone asked his lawyer, what did he leave? And his lawyer said, he left everything. He did. When you and I die, our stuff becomes somebody else's. It is no longer ours. And so we can surround ourselves. I'm not knocking these things. I enjoy the comforts that my wife and family have. Those are nice things. But I just have them on loan. They really don't belong to me. Because one day, somebody else will have them. And they will not be mine anymore. I think what God taught me to do a long time ago, that the things of this earth, we're to hold them very loosely and not tightly. Because they're not ours. When we hold on to things tightly, we don't want to let go of them. Mr. Bowen that I spoke about a while ago, he based his whole life on wanting to be a millionaire. And when he died, he had nothing. Because it was no longer his. And so the things of this earth, at some point, are going to grow strangely dim. At some point, they will have no value to us in any way. I think this is why Jesus said in Matthew the 6th chapter, don't store up treasures on earth. Instead, store up treasures in heaven. Undoubtedly, Jesus is saying that you and I can, in this life, make some investments in heaven. We can go ahead and send some things ahead, right? That will be there. We can go ahead and send some things ahead. And those things that we send ahead are those spiritual and eternal things that become important to us. That's what we do. We send those things ahead. Because at some point in life, what we have will no longer be ours. Mr. Bowen and his wife, they had no children. And so when Mr. Bowen died, everything went to his wife. And when she died, everything went to the two nephews. And they are enjoying it. I think Mr. Bowen would roll over in his grave if he knew that they were enjoying that money. Because he never enjoyed it. He just wanted it in the thought of it. So all this stuff, that house you got, you're going to leave to your children? They're going to change the color in it. They're going to get rid of some of that furniture. And you can't do a thing about it. Why? Because it's not yours anymore. It's not yours anymore. So what is it that we have? What we have is what we have in heaven. That's what we have. And that's where our investment should be, in things that are eternal and things that are lasting. They said that Sigmund Freud, that one of his favorite illustrations was that of a sailor who was shipwrecked on an island in the South Seas. And the natives came and they hoisted them on their shoulders, and they took him to the throne and made him to be king. And he thought, this is great. I am now king of this whole island. And then he said, and they told him, he said, you will only be king for 1 year. You'll be just king. And so he thought to himself, what happened to all the other kings? And they said, we took them to a deserted island and they starved to death after 1 year. He thought, golly. He thought, if I'm king, that means you'll do anything I ask, right? He said, yeah. So he got his carpenters building boats. And he took those boats and carried the farmers to the deserted island. And got them to do what? To plant some fruit trees there and make the soil fertile for crops. And then he brought some masons over and they built homes and houses there. And so when his year was up, when they sent him to the island, he'd already made an investment in that island and he did fine. The issue is that you and I have to send things ahead. Treasures in heaven. What's your bank account in heaven like? Not what your bank account is on this earth, but what's in your bank account? What's in your trust there? What's there? What spiritual things, eternal things, have you already sent ahead of yourself that's waiting for you when you come? So Jesus tells us a parable that sometimes greed becomes that fatal attraction to so many people, doesn't it? It robs us of our ability to think rationally about spiritual matters. Could I encourage you this morning to take the things that you have in this life and hold them loosely? Not tightly, but loosely. So that one day when you are called home, you can easily let go of them. I think sometimes here on this earth, we get things so out of perspective. And we make life about me. And life's not about me. Life is about God and our relationship with Jesus Christ. I really believe that. Let us pray. I don't know why, Father, but sometimes we just get so fixated on these things on earth. We feel like we have to have them, but that we can't live without them. And we hold those things so tightly, and we put them ahead of family and friends, and sometimes even our own health. But in the end, when we die, they're no longer ours. They become property of someone else, and they get to do with them what they want to. Why do we put so much stock in the things that are temporal and give so little thought to the things that are eternal? Gracious God, make us wise. Make us wise to understand that life is fragile. We don't know how long we will live or how soon we will die. Teach us that you are real. You should not be part of the conversation. You should be the conversation. And teach us that we can't take our stuff with us. Maybe the wise thing to do is see others enjoy our stuff now while we're still alive. Maybe we can make investments in heaven by taking our stuff and helping other people. Remind us and help us, oh God. Amen.